Hello, welcome to my home and my dirty laundry. My name is Karen. I'm so glad you're here. What I'm going to focus on today is all things getting the house, the kitchen ready for groceries and a new week of feeding my family. And I really want to talk to you about that. But there's always things that need to be done. And so I am in my morning routine right now. I am working on the laundry. I took a dirty shirt and I'm just kind of like wiping anything that I see because I know it's going to get clean anyway. But when you see my videos, you're being dropped into my life and I love to share my life with you. So if you don't want to be a part of that, but you want to be here for what I do to get ready for more groceries to come in, and honestly, before I even make the grocery order, how I am trying not to waste any food, making sure everything is going to get used. I'm going to give you all the best practices that I have learned over my 60 years of life. And that will start on minute 17 and 55 seconds. So basically minute 18. So if you don't want to be here for my morning and my life and all of those things, but you want to get some of that advice, or you want to just consider how you might do what you do in your kitchen to get ready for a new week of feeding your family, saving money, and not wasting food, go ahead and skip to minute 18. For the rest of you, stay right here. Nothing's ever perfect, and I do like to be super honest in my videos. So you're going to see me make a huge mistake, faux pas. Stay tuned. Here it comes. Right now, with all the best intentions, I am emptying my dishwasher. I have two cats, and the reason I'm going to tell you about the two cats instead of my mistake is because you're going to hear all about it here in a minute anyway. One cat's name is Woozy. He is my bigger cat. He is my older cat. He's about 7 or 8 years old. Our younger cat is Leo, and he's like 3 or 4 years old. I honestly don't remember. Okay, Leo was born in 2020, so I guess he's 5. They're both shelter cats. I forget that so many of you are new and you don't know our little cat backstories, and I was specifically asked if I would share about the cats, which I am only too happy to do. It was not. Oh my goodness. I just emptied a dishwasher and it wasn't run. That's when you know you're having a good day. I don't even know which cups. Our standard rule of dishwasher is at night, I don't care if it's full or not, I want it run. And so I was just assuming that it had been run and it had not. And it was kind of a big blow to me because, then you're trying to figure out what things have been put away, what things hadn't, what things were already clean, all that. And then I went to start it again, realized I had some dirty baby bottles out. So I put oh my goodness, back to the cats anyway. You'll hear more about this in a minute when I do my makeup. So our oldest, both of them are shelter cats. With Woozy, one summer, I was looking for a way that I wouldn't have to leave the house so much and something for the girls to do that would keep them home. And I decided to foster kittens. And so our first batch of kittens, we had 2 batches. Our first batch of kittens included Woozy. It was Mom and her 5 babies. Oh my goodness. So they were too young to be away from their mom, which is what was so cool. So Woozy came in, there he is on the floor, and that's Leo on the back of the couch. He came in that first batch of kittens. And I knew from the get-go that cat wasn't going to go anywhere. He was the graduation present of my oldest daughter, Rachel. He preferred, I thought, to be with us instead of his litter mates. Really, he's just a loner. And then we had another batch of kittens, which was actually 2 litters put together. That was chaotic. And those were the 2 batches of foster kittens we did that summer, and my girls loved it. And then Leo came later at 2020. My daughter Crecia had been begging for a cat, and we decided to go ahead. Actually, maybe he came in 2021. I think he did, because there was actually a cat shortage during COVID because they weren't letting cats into the state. And oddly, both our cats are from North Carolina, and we finally did find Leo. in a shelter. So they're not related, but they are both shelter cats. And we got both of them when they were kittens. And they just definitely keep us from getting bored every single day. And they're complete opposite in personality.
I woke up on Root Beer Float Day feeling the energy to like do all the things. And I thought, Karen, you know you can't do all the things. You always do this. And then you burn out. So I started a brain dump, which is always the best thing to do. Is just all the things that you're thinking of you want to get done, just write them in a brain dump. And I put it on my phone, actually. And I was all gung-ho. It was like my husband made the bed. That was so great. I go downstairs. I take my shower. I go downstairs. I start laundry. Before that, while I was having my morning caffeine, I put in a grocery order that's coming between 10 and 11 this morning. I'm taking Yvonne to a job interview today. Yes, I know we're moving. Long story longer. I'm not even going to, whatever. It is what it is. But even if she can just get a month of work is how she's feeling. But anyway, what was I saying? So everything was going great. Fed the cats. Start emptying the dishwasher. I'm filming it. And I realize when I take one of the last things out, a plate, this dishwasher has not been run, is what I realized. We are so good at rinsing that you can't always tell. We've done the magnet thing, that kind of like, you don't keep up with it. It just was an epic fail. So as soon as I realized that I was emptying a dirty dishwasher and I need to figure out which cups go back in there, bomb, 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 bomb. My mood just went so downhill. So I thought, okay, let's take a break. Let's go put our makeup on. Let's talk to our friends, cheer ourselves up, and then we will get back at it because I want to get I'm trying to really prioritize my brain, and I want to get my refrigerator cleaned out well. You know, I kind of started, you saw it in my last video when my son was coming over for lunch and his wife and her best friend, that I kind of started with getting meat put away. But I don't really have a good menu plan, and I bought groceries this morning. The cool thing was, if you spend $120 or more, like, you know how easy it is to spend $120 or more, $11 off coupon on your total order. So you know, I was like, oh yeah, grocery orders going in. We're not going to miss that opportunity. And I went in on my laptop and I updated, like, I'm covering an age spot right now, people. Age spots. I grew up a freckle face. And a friend of mine, her sister is an esthetician. And my sister's always been worried about my spots right here, that they might be skin cancer, because she lives in Florida. So obviously that's something they're checking all the time when you're light skinned. And the esthetician, I asked her, I'm like, hey, what do you think of these spots on my face? She was like, they're age spots. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm glad they're not dangerous, but you know, anyway. So what was I even saying? I was like filming myself emptying a dirty dishwasher. This is how we started today. But I'm not going to let it get to me. That's why I'm like, okay. And I was going to like, oh, get yourself in order. Don't stop making your morning routine about the house and include yourself in there. I really need to get a paper towel because this thing is sweating to beat the band. It's a mocha shake in iced coffee. That's stock brand, STOK. I really like it. So I would love to know what you are doing today. This afternoon at 4, I need to be ready to do my Decluttering at the Speed of Life live with the membership. After we're done with the book, I will put the whole series of videos here, because I know not there's some of you who would like to be members, and for whatever reason, that's not a possibility for you. So I definitely want you to get to benefit from that book, and you can go through it at your own pace and then, watch what our highlights were to motivate yourselves. So that will go up I haven't even figured out when we'll be done with that book. I have no idea. We take it 2 chapters at a time because they're pretty short chapters. That's a really good book. I've never read a book cover to cover about decluttering before. So this is definitely new for me. All right, so I'm rambling. I'm going to put the rest of my makeup on, and then I'm going to start over. The dishwasher is running. I added some things to it after I realized that I didn't put baby bottles in it. Once I started it, then I'm like, wait, there's baby bottles on the counter. So I threw those in there. And our dishwasher has a sterilize feature. So that's sterilizing. It's one of the things I love about having a dishwasher. Did I tell you guys that our house is actually under contract again? I don't know if I told you that. I don't think I did. Our house is under contract again, but I'm not too excited. The reason I got excited before was because this realtor sold my last house in a day. So I was like, oh, we're in a pattern. Normally I'd be like, wait for the building inspection. Don't get excited. So this time I'm not as excited because I'm waiting for the building inspection. In fact, I am anti-excited. I need to get more excited. And I need to get my butt moving, looking at properties again in Vermont. And my daughter-in-law has offered to do like the first look to rule out, because we had a couple houses last time that we looked at and it was like an absolute no. You can't tell by pictures, but as soon as I walked in, I was like, oh no, nope, not taking this on. So she can vet that for me because she was with me on those couple of houses and we both were like, yeah, no. And then she went to the condo that is super small with me. So now if she were to look at a condo, she'd be like, okay, it is bigger than the last one. So I need to contact my realtor today. There's just some things I really have got to do. I can so get in the rhythm of life and procrastinate things and not get them done. For example, there is one bill I got. I need to make sure I go and pay that today. There's just those little things. Let me know, do you struggle with that too, of just certain things that you can be discouraged about or for whatever reason, and it's easy to procrastinate. All right, this time I really am going to finish getting my makeup on, and then we'll get going. What will we get going on? I think I'm going to get going on the refrigerator first because my grocery order comes between 10 and 11. So because it is time sensitive, I need to make sure I have I'm like to my husband, I'm like, are you ready to go through your books? Because he has said there's books he's going to hand down to our sons. He's talked to both of them to see if they're interested, and they are. So what I told him to do, because then it's like, besides having them pick what books they want, it'll be whatever books they don't want and figuring out where we want those to go. But I said, how about we do it in reverse because we're packing. He has, in the living room, he has this rotary bookshelf, which I love. And those are the books he's actively reading. So the ones in the basement, he's not going to read those before we move. So I said, let's pull the books that you are, know you want to keep. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of a win for reverse psychology of instead of thinking, what do I want to get rid of? You're thinking, what do I want to keep? I'll definitely film that for you. And then what's left on the shelf will be the stuff that is going to be handed to others. I know my son, who's a pastor, wants commentaries My other son is just an avid reader, so the theological stuff that is in the commentary, I can imagine him wanting. So that is what we need to do. And then I also, and you're going to see these in upcoming videos. So much for finishing my makeup without talking to you. But Yvonne is ready to declutter again her closet. So great time of year to declutter your closets. And of course, before we move, Jabari is out of the newborn clothes, mostly. Not all of them, but most of them. And she's obviously sad about it. But we are bagging, boxing all the things up to give to my daughter-in-law, and because even if she doesn't have another one, at their church there are lots of women having babies. So, and these are in perfect shape. So we definitely know people who can use them, and that makes me happy. Also, for those of you who gifted these clothes to her, I want you to know that they are going to be put to very good use, and they are going to be gifted very intentionally. So when you blessed Yvonne, you blessed potentially many young moms. And how amazing is that? All right, this is the makeup look for today. Oops, I forgot to put this away. I love this, by the way. Perbel CC Cream. Also, if you ever do buy it, when you get to the end of the tube, cut the tube, keep it in a Gladlock bag, and it will stay fresh, and you can be digging it out. I've gotten a couple extra weeks out of a tube by doing that. Even, let's see, let me show you. This is the Tarte Shape Tape. I call it spackle. But in most makeup, they will have a stopper so that too much product doesn't come out at once. When these are empty, you often can take any tube like this. You can take a pair of tweezers and get that stopper out and get more product out of it at the end. My daughter taught me that little trick. So, and you can get way more product out of it and get more bang for your buck. All right, let's go down with a positive attitude and clean out my refrigerator.
Leo was in my bedroom waiting in the window, and he tends to follow me around, especially if I'm filming. He likes to be all about our YouTube channel here, and he loves the camera. So I went downstairs and I realized that the stove needed to be cleaned. So I'm going to share with you kind of best practices for food coming into the house. So I'm doing things a little bit backwards. So this is going to be a little bit do what I say, not what I do. I hope this is an encouragement for you. I do know what is in my house, but I don't actually write it down till almost the end of this, little time that we have together. But when food is coming into the house, and you're going to see the food in my next video. In the next video, we're really going to dive into, I'm going to try to do a proper meal plan. I'm trying so hard to get my good habits back that I had let go. So my morning routine is back, where I am making sure that the dishwasher is emptied in the morning, whether or not it's me that does it. I'm making sure the laundry is flowing and my bed is made. And I also like to set up the living room and kind of just go around the house and tidy up so that if company came, it would be fine. So I like to clean up the kitchen before groceries come in. I know the groceries are going to be sitting right on this island where I am, so I want to make sure it is clean and disinfected, and I'll actually have to disinfect it again. Leo is in the habit of eating on top of this island. I know, and I just haven't found a way to break him of that habit, but I also needed to clean it because I knew I was going to clean out my refrigerator, and that island is right where I am setting things down. So I set things down on the island, so I needed it to be clean. I'm just using an all-purpose spray here. If you are using an antibacterial spray because you wanted to, make sure that everything was sterile in your refrigerator, you'd want to spray it and leave it for a few minutes. But I am just using an all-purpose cleaner, and honestly, I could have just used warm water. It would have worked just as well. When groceries are coming into the house, I want to make sure that the counters are wiped down, my stovetop is wiped down. I really want to empty the dishwasher or the sink, which went a little awry this morning, but the dishwasher is at least running. I want to clear clutter from any prep spaces if I do have the energy to do any food prep on the day that our groceries come in. You know, interesting story. I can remember my mother buying like a pound or two, like I think a pound of American cheese sliced from the deli. And also, what she would do is she would peel each piece of cheese off and restack it because she didn't feel like it was stacked neat enough for her. That just gave you a little peek into my mom. I grew up in an absolutely spotless home. My mother was such a great homekeeper. Oh my goodness, I don't think I could ever measure up to that. Another thing I have seen is like not only just to clear clutter, but sharpen your knives if you're going to be using knives to do any cutting. You can refill your salt, refill the oil that you keep near the stove, all of those things to prep. One great reason to do these things is before you've even made your grocery list, then it would be a good time to know, hey, I need more salt, I need more oil, I need more vinegar, to be kind of checking your inventory. I definitely like to have the refrigerator clean when the groceries come in. I'm not always good about that. In fact, I have not been good about that this summer. I got back into really making sure my fridge was wiped down, to be perfectly honest, knowing that people were going to be coming in and looking at our home as we were selling it. And it's just kind of catapulted me to make sure that I'm keeping up with my routines again, because when my house is running well, it just does really help me mentally to be running well in my mind as well. I like to be checking condiments regularly, checking spices regularly, and getting rid of anything that might be expired. I know expiration dates is kind of a controversial thing, but in our family, we do go by expiration dates, 9.5 times out of 10. We do have some food insecurities in our home of people just afraid to get sick, where we've had a lot of stomach issues and such in our family. You're always wondering, is it something I ate? So I'm going through the refrigerator, removing anything that is spoiled. I'm making sure things are wiped down. As you can see, I have liners. I have regular plastic liners on the shelving, the open shelving, and then in the drawers, the liners that you're going to see later are actually washable refrigerator liners. I love having washable liners where I keep produce, because you know how it is. Once in a while, you'll forget you had something in there and it breaks down and juices get everywhere, or it's rotten. And it is nice to be able to toss those in the washing machine, but I would say it's also nice to have the plastic ones that you can just wipe down. But the ones that are washable are a little bit absorbent, which I like as well. All 7 of my children know how to cook. They're all grown now, but I do have 3 adult daughters living with us, as well as an infant grandson. And we tend to stock ingredients. We don't have a ton of prepared food in the house. It's not necessarily that I intentionally did that. It's just kind of who we are as a family, because everyone cooks. Whenever I'm doing a big job like this, I like to kind of convince myself that it's not a huge chore. So one of the ways that I do that is I might put a podcast or a TV show in my ear, something I've watched, if it's a TV show, often enough that I can kind of picture what's happening. And it does help pass the time. I have to say, I do enjoy cleaning. I don't enjoy taking the refrigerator apart, but I have to say, I probably only take my refrigerator apart, like taking shelving out, twice a year at the most. And part of the reason is I have so many liners. I don't normally need to do that. Anything that could leak that is a sauce is either on the door, or I do have Lazy Susans also. And it's so funny because, actually it's not that funny, but I'm probably the only one who puts things in the Lazy Susans in the refrigerator. So I do like to just kind of go through my refrigerator on the daily when I'm cooking. When I make dinner at the end of the night, I'll just go through and any sauce that has been put back that's not in a Lazy Susan or on the drawer, I'll just kind of shuffle the refrigerator to put all those things in there. Have I talked to people about doing that? Yes, I have. Do they do that? No, they don't. Then I also, not only do I have liners in the drawers, but I also have these little containers that I probably got at like TJ Maxx or Marshall's. Of course, you can also get them on Amazon, and they fit in the drawers. I have one drawer on the left is the one where I keep loose things like tomatoes, green peppers. The one on the right is more for like salad, heads of lettuce, that sort of thing. I do have this purple cabbage here because it has been cut down a little bit, but normally it would be in the right side. So I don't really need one of these little containers that you see me filling right now on the right side, but I did have one in there. I'm going to end up taking that out and putting it in the main parts of the fridge because what happens is people love to do things like lemon water, but if they don't see the lemons, they think we don't have them, they don't open the drawer, and then the lemons go bad. So I wanted to have them visible where people can see them, and that really informs how I not only organize my refrigerator, but also the pantry of if there's something that really needs to be eaten, I'm going to put it in the front or right at eye level where everyone can see it so that subconsciously they will eat it. In fact, when my kids were little, I would keep a fruit bowl on the table where they were doing their schoolwork because we were homeschoolers. Because, talk about the easy, the fruit laying off the tree, it's the easy pickings. They would more likely get an apple if it was sitting right in front of them than to get up, walk in the kitchen, open the cabinet or the pantry and get out some cookies. So trying to be really honest here, show you all my little messes. So if I can make this ritual of cleaning out the refrigerator enjoyable with a podcast or music or a show, I'll definitely do that. I definitely usually have some caffeine sitting ready for me to drink, whether it's a cup of coffee or iced coffee or something, or maybe even a diet soda. I just try to make it as enjoyable as I possibly can. And I also kind of focus on the why. The why is I don't want to waste food. I don't want to waste money. Money is so expensive right now. And especially where we have ingredients, we have a lot of fresh foods. And so if I'm not keeping the vegetables and the fruits rotated, if I'm not keeping on top of things, I am on meat. I mean, that's a whole nother issue. Then I am going to have spoilage and I really don't want that. I want any containers, any bags, any bins ready for organizing when I have a grocery order coming in. I want to make sure my pantry is organized and ready. I want to have my grocery list visible and editable. I was keeping a grocery list on the refrigerator and I stopped doing it because we were showing the house. I need to get that put back up there when anyone notices, especially where I have adults in the home, but I even did this when my kids were younger. As soon as they were old enough to write, I said, if we're out of milk, I don't drink milk, I need you to write milk on the list. And then when we don't have something in the house, I can say, well, was it on the list? No, it wasn't on the list. Okay, that's why it didn't come in. And over time, that is the best teacher where they go, you know what? I am going to write things on the list because I really want mom to do it. To have that list when she does her grocery order so that I get the things that I want to eat. And I also always ask the family what they might like on the meal plan because I definitely want to be making food that they like. What you're seeing me do is the little dried spot at the end of the broccoli I throw out, and then the stems that are on the cutting board, that's my little snack right there. So I'm putting these in the produce keepers so that they won't get old or get bad before they're used. I do think produce keepers help things stay fresh longer. Also, those thin plastic bags, oftentimes they collect moisture on top of the produce, and I feel like the produce rots that much quicker. Even a Gladlock bag, you'll see me put some things in a Gladlock bag. I feel like that keeps things fresh a lot longer than having them in those very thin plastic bags or even out with open air in the refrigerator. So while I'm cleaning out the fridge, I'm definitely tossing anything expired or spoiled. without guilt. It happens to all of us. We're all just doing our best. I'm going to wipe the shelves out quickly with a damp cloth or a disinfecting wipe or all-purpose cleaner. I'm going to group what's left, so I'm getting it all organized. That way when I get the groceries in, it's really easy to see where everything should go. On my best days, I will be doing a meal plan before I grocery shop. That doesn't always happen. I just got to be honest. And on this week, it definitely didn't happen. But there are certain things we always eat now. One of my daughters had asked for zucchini, and she didn't end up making the thing she had asked for it to be in the house for. Man, I got tongue-tied. So I'm getting this all sliced up, and at recording of this, I've already used it. I ended up sauteing it with, I was trying to do like a homemade lemon pepper, and I cooked it with, I put some oil down, I sauteed it, put in a little lemon, put in some pepper and some salt, and honestly, that's all we did, and we ate it like that, and I thought it was very good. I also would have loved it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese, but one of my daughters is dairy-free, so she cannot have Parmesan cheese. So as I group what's left, I'm doing that for visibility, but also for me. You know, whenever I'm reorganizing the refrigerator or even just going through it before I get groceries, I'm making a mental note and even writing down what is in there. What do I have for meat? What do I have for vegetables, so that it all gets used up, because I will forget. And if I don't have a meal plan, what I'm doing is I'm getting the things we normally eat if we don't have them already in the house. Ground turkey, ground beef, chicken breast, chicken thighs. I'll get a meat that's on sale, which is usually like chicken legs. I don't usually get the chicken leg quarters, but usually either chicken legs or some form of pork is 99 cents a pound, and I will get that. I also noticed that I had a couple of hard-boiled eggs. Sometimes that can be confusing to the family, even though I have an egg keeper. So I'm getting those peeled. I'm going to put them in a Gladluck bag. We use those for salads, and once my daughter Yvonne, she loves salads. She saw those. She was like, okay, I am making a salad for myself pronto. So I like to have some eggs boiled. And even when eggs were expensive, I still felt like if you break down how many meals you get out of a dozen eggs, eggs are a very economical meal. So I got those peeled, got them rinsed, and got those back in the refrigerator. I made sure they were in a spot that was very obvious, that when you opened up the refrigerator, there it was. Because even if I tell someone, if they don't see it when they open the fridge, oftentimes they won't actually see it. So there's the fridge all organized, feeling so much better. Everything in there is ready to be used and is still usable. With that done, I want to sweep the floor. And while I'm doing that, yes, see, there's Leo eating on my island. I'm so very sorry that you had to see that, because I know it does bother some people, but don't worry, I will disinfect it again before the groceries come. Okay, let's just review. Preparing for a new week of meals, here are my suggestions. Clean out the fridge, tossing spoiled items, wiping down everything. Take an inventory. What do you have in your fridge, your freezer, your pantry? I actually do my little inventory in just a few minutes. It is coming up next. Then clean up the kitchen zones, wiping down your counters and stovetop, getting your dishwasher, your sink empty, clearing clutter from prep spaces, and sharpening any knives, refilling salt and oil. If you can, you guys, this is like we're having a perfect week over here, okay? Then we just do what we can and be happy with that and do not feel badly. Then it's meal planning, prepping your basics if you can once your groceries come in. I just want to show off these flowers that I got when I was showing the house. Now I'm going to keep the laundry flowing, switching it over, and get your grocery zones ready. Make room in the fridge or pantry for newer items and have your containers out, your bags and bins ready. Make sure if you have produce keepers that they're ready to go, that they're clean. Keep your grocery list visible. A place where everybody can see it. Make it a ritual that is enjoyable. What are you going to listen to? What can you do afterwards? Can you have your favorite drink with you? If you don't love doing that job, then it's just a good way to plan ahead and see if there's something you can do to help it be more enjoyable. Let me know in the comment section, do you have anything to add? What do you like to do before you have a new week of meals. So here's Leo. He's got his eye on Woozy, and oftentimes he will run over and attack him. I always feel so bad because, Woozy's like the older, kind gentleman, and Leo is like the chaotic teenager. Okay, here I am doing my inventory. So I'm checking my freezer, seeing what I have for meats, and I had like some blade steak and some chicken thigh, but not enough for a whole meal for all of us. So that kind of happens to me sometimes, but I like to individually wrap meats. You'll see me do this often in videos because as your kids get older, you never know who's going to be home. So I'll find out who's going to be home, and that's how many pieces I take out. And that has really helped me not to waste food. Sometimes when it's the night before a grocery order, I'm kind of looking to see what might need to be used up. Oftentimes, I don't have a lot of selections on what can be made. And so even though it was last night's meal, because it was the night before my grocery order, I'm actually going to show you what I made because it's so economical. It's with stuff that's usually around the house, even before grocery day. And I hope it will give you a good idea and just kind of see where my brain is running. I'm just looking at, okay, what needs to be used up? And then those are the things that we're going to eat. And I've even done it, I think of like leftovers. There's been times where I'll take leftovers from different nights and put them together in one meal, and we'll do it buffet style. And I tell the kids, it's like we're going to a church supper where you have a lot of different options. Or maybe I'll do a charcuterie board, or maybe I will do some sort of casserole dish where you can put lots of different vegetables, a soup, a vegetable soup, or even a beef soup with different vegetables, or a chicken soup with different vegetables. Definitely a soup is a great way to use up little ends of various vegetables. So I have done that before, or if you have a lot of raw vegetables, doing a charcuterie board of raw vegetables for your vegetable side. If you don't want to do salad, a little bit of ranch dressing or ranch dip can make that seem a heck of a lot less boring. There's so many things that you can do. If you think of some of those old-timey recipes like shepherd's pie, where it was like ground meat on the bottom, whether that be lamb, you could use turkey, you could use beef, and then a layer of vegetables. And everybody has their own idea on what vegetable to use. In my family, my mom always used corn. But my grandmother would tell you, no, this was actually a recipe birthed from using up whatever you had on hand. So it's whatever vegetable you have on hand, mashed potatoes on top, which could actually be leftover mashed potatoes, and you have yourself a meal. In fact, fish chowder, which is like a staple here in Maine, it used to be the fishermen would make that right on the wharf. And, it's really was just like milk, butter, fish, potatoes, onions. That's it. That's fish chowder. You can make it so many different ways now and so fancy. But so many of these meals and these casseroles were actually birthed out of trying not to waste food and use up little scraps. I mean, my grandmother, was an adult, or was she an adult? I think she was an adult during the Depression. But you have these Depression era people. We can glean so much from them on the different casseroles and dishes and soups and stews. Stew is another great idea. I mean, all stew is, if you don't have enough broth to make a soup, call it a stew. Throw in some cornstarch mixed with water, thicken it up, and everybody thinks you're just the best cook on the planet. Let me know, what are the meals, your go-to meals the night before groceries? I think pizza is another good one because you can be using up raw vegetables in the refrigerator. I mean, our local place where we get pizza, if I get a veggie pizza, it has broccoli and spinach and tomatoes. I mean, literally, you can throw down anything you have. People do barbecue chicken on a pizza, buffalo chicken on a pizza. So a pizza is another great idea. You can do a Mexican pizza. You can throw some salsa down on it, enchilada sauce. Pizza is another great way to use up little bits and bobs of food. So you can see that I had my inventory list written down. Ideally, that would have been before I made my grocery order, but true transparency, That did not happen this time. And then I also had a packet of coleslaw in the refrigerator that I wanted to get made up. I was going to have it the next day because I knew I had ordered some country boneless spare ribs, and I do love coleslaw, is great with pork. And then I am making an Alfredo. I had broccoli and Brussels sprouts that I felt like needed to be used, and I had just seen Kimmy on the Wads do some sort of Alfredo recipe where she had Brussels sprouts in it, and I was like, ooh, that's a great idea. I knew I had some bow tie pasta, and let me tell you what I put in my Alfredo. It's so easy. I do a roux, and the recipe calls for a half a stick of butter. I used a whole stick. Honestly, it just made it taste better. And I always do 3 tablespoons of flour, whisk it, put in salt and pepper, and then I add milk. I think the recipe calls for 2 cups of milk. I didn't even measure my milk. I had milk that needed to be used up, and so I thought Alfredo sauce. And then for cheese, you could use any cheese you have on hand. Once you have that roux, because once you have the butter and the flour, salt and pepper mixed up, then you're adding milk little by little, letting it heat up, letting it thicken up, and you keep adding. The more milk you have added, the more sauce you'll have. The less milk you add, the less sauce you'll have. So about 2 cups of milk works with 1 box of pasta. Remember in the old days when pasta was a pound? I don't think it's a pound anymore. But anyway, I digress. Then I take Parmesan cheese. And the Parmesan cheese I have is the grated kind in the can. It's the cheapest one. It's the store brand. Here's the secret. Add garlic powder to your Alfredo sauce, and I'm telling you, it makes it taste like Olive Garden. Once I realized to add garlic powder, total game changer. So what I'm doing, we like our broccoli and our Brussels sprouts roasted. So I had enough for each of those to fill like a half a sheet. And I'm not adding it to the Alfredo. I let people just add it to theirs themselves. Then we had some chicken breast. My husband grilled the chicken breast on the grill, and he cuts it up. They add their own chicken breast. They add their own vegetables. And then if there's leftovers and it doesn't all get eaten, the chicken is stored in the fridge. The veggies are stored in the fridge, and they can be used the next day in either another dish or just heat it up as leftovers. But if I put them in the Alfredo, and oftentimes my family doesn't love leftover pasta, but even if they did, and it actually all ended up getting eaten, so we didn't have any leftover pasta, they can be adding the vegetable and the chicken to it. See how I used up the rest of the milk? But they can be adding the vegetables and the chicken to it the next day, or you can be using that chicken in a salad, or you can just be heating it up. I like to keep the ingredients separate, and they just mix them in their bowl or plate because I just feel like it lends better to leftovers. And again, I think it's like a cup of grated cheese that the recipe calls for. I'm just dumping. The more cheese you have in there, the more cheesy it'll be. The less cheese you have in there, the less cheesy it'll be. And I whisk it. It does thicken up the sauce even more. And what I did on this day was everybody likes to have some Parmesan left over to shake on top of their dish. So I just used all but some so they would have enough to shake on top of their dish. And this meal is always a big hit. It's a comfort food, but it's a very inexpensive, easy Alfredo to make. If you buy Fairlife milk, the Fairlife milk works just as well. If you like to do an Alfredo sauce with heavy cream or light cream, honestly, it doesn't even matter because it is the flour that thickens it up. If you're gluten-free, you could be using cornstarch instead of flour. Just do it like 1 tablespoon at a time because I notice you don't need as much for cornstarch as you do for flour. I hope this was a helpful video. Tune in tomorrow. I'm going to have another video for you tomorrow where I talk about the meal plan, where I show you the grocery order, and I'm going to try to, talk about best practices for meal planning, and I'm going to try to use those best practices myself, and I feel like we'll all learn something. So remember, as always, God loves you, I love you too, and I can't wait to see you next time.